Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Political Insider. I'm Brett Smith, your humble host. Joining me today is our good friend. He's the president of Right Turn Strategies, a frequent guest on Kennedy Nation on FBN, and now a regular on Gutfeld on FNC. Chris Barron, welcome back.
Glad to be here. And by the way, before I forget, I'll actually be on Kennedy Wednesday of this week.
Awesome. Everybody tune in. Okay, so I had my questions for you, but obviously the news is a little unpredictable, and today is a good example of that. We basically have the fall of Saigon too. We have Afghanistan falling to the Taliban 5.5 weeks ago. Joe Biden said this could never happen, and I just hope that Mark Milley has figured out white rage.
Right,
maybe he can deal with this now, right?
Right. Well, by the way, the Taliban now has an air force that American taxpayer dollars paid for, and our government wants us to believe that grandma, posting memes on Facebook is the real threat facing our country. Like if there's, I can't remember the last time we had a bigger "the emperor has no clothes" moment than this one right now. They've been trying to convince us that white rage and January 6th and Trump supporter, they're all the problem. This is the existential threat facing our democracy. And that has now been, the American people have been woken up with the pictures that they're seeing from Afghanistan. We spent $2 trillion over 20 years, thousands of Americans killed, tens of thousands of Americans injured, and it's all gone. It's all gone in a matter of days. And let me be clear. I supported President Trump's desire to withdraw troops from Afghanistan. You can support withdrawing troops from Afghanistan and also believe that that withdrawal ought to be done in an orderly and sane fashion. What's happened today is not because America is withdrawing troops. It's because we have the most incompetent withdrawal strategy I have ever seen executed at anywhere, at any point in history. Literally, I saw somebody from the White House trying to make the case on the Today Show that this wasn't the worst case scenario. And Savannah Guthrie, not exactly a hard-hitting reporter, was like completely and totally flummoxed. What do you mean? What could possibly be the worst case scenario than this? This is complete and total humiliation for the American government, for Joe Biden, for the American people. It is a dishonor and a slap in the face to our brave men and women who serve. And it's a slap in the face to all the taxpayers who've been footing the bill for $2 trillion in Afghanistan. We'd have been better off setting that money on fire and throwing it out a window.
Yeah, I think that says it all, really. I really feel for the troops, man. And Sean Parnell, our good friend and also TPI guest, tweeted over the weekend that, this isn't on the boots. This is on the suits. Yep. The boots on the ground did their job, and they did it valiantly. They gave up a lot. And, the onus and the blame at this point is on the suits and the guys that have been micromanaging this war.
And by the way, we need answers now. We need answers. Who actually is responsible for this total and complete disaster of a pullout? Was the Biden administration relying on faulty intelligence? Was the intel bad? Or were they ignoring the intel and just deciding to do their own thing? We need answers, because somebody's head should roll for this. And I can promise you two things. One, if Trump were president, the moment that we started pulling troops back and the Taliban started moving into provincial capitals, Trump would have said, nah, absolutely not. This is not what we agreed to. So either back in your cave or we'll bomb you back to the Stone Ages. And two, if anything remotely like this had happened on Trump's watch, heads would have already rolled by now. Trump would have been on television saying, I'm firing the following people because this was botched. They screwed up. They did this wrong. Like, Biden's done nothing. He's hidden. We don't know who's responsible. We don't know if it was a bad plan, faulty intelligence, faulty execution, all of the above. We don't know what's going on. And I guess today at some point, Biden's going to come forward and he's going to give a talk about this. I can promise you he's not going to take questions. He's going to blame the Trump administration. He's going to fail to live up to the moment of being commander in chief, a job he asked for. He said, like, no, nobody said you're drafted to be commander in chief. He asked to be commander in chief. This is a moment that you step up and you take responsibility. He has let our country and our troops down in a huge way, and he's humiliated the American people.
Well, they're already starting to blame the Trump administration by saying this was Trump's timeline and we were just adhering to it.
And by the way, Pompeo was on Fox News Sunday this weekend talking about when the Trump administration came in and there were deals that they didn't like, they pulled out of those deals. They said, absolutely not. The Paris Accords, the Iranian deals, like they pulled out. You know, they said, look, we want to renegotiate NAFTA. You're not, it wasn't like they were stuck with the Trump deal. In fact, they went in and they hollowed out parts of the Trump deal. They're the ones who chose to move the date to leave Afghanistan from May until September 11th, because Biden thought he was going to get a political victory out of this. He thought he'd be able to celebrate the end of the war in Afghanistan and have it coincide with the 20th anniversary of September 11th, and this would be a PR extravaganza for him. The fact is he put the scales were weighing out, and the PR mattered more to him than the policy and the money and the time and the blood and treasure that we have spent in Afghanistan, and that's inexcusable.
Yeah. Trump tweeted out today that Biden should resign in disgrace.
Yeah, and by the way, there's no Trump. Nobody thinks Trump would have let this happen. Like, he literally would have said, we'll bomb you back to the Stone Ages. We're leaving behind, attack aircraft, attack helicopters, tanks, Humvees, surface to air missiles. Why are we leaving this stuff? We're giving them an air force. Why was there no plan to just like, if we're not going to take it with us because it's not feasible to take, liquidate it, destroy all of it. We should not have left a single thing for the Taliban to then use against us and our allies. This is insane.
Yeah, I would have rather seen us bomb all that stuff. If it was too expensive or or too cumbersome to bring back to the States or transfer to I don't know, Germany or some other some other base, then just blow it up. I mean, why
it up
allow
now?
Well, yeah, I mean, why allow the enemy to have access to all that equipment, of which they seem to be figuring out how to operate?
Every single Afghan military airport should be blown up right now. Mm-hmm. They should be going in, destroying runways, blowing up planes on the ground. We paid for those planes. American taxpayers paid for the Taliban to have a state-of-the-art air force. That is unforgivable. The other side likes to toss around treason all the time. You want to talk what's treasonous? What's treasonous is actually putting state-of-the-art military weapons in the hands of people who are on the streets chanting death to America. That's treason.
Yeah. You just reminded me of when we were running guns down to the cartels during Obama. What was that called?
Oh God, yeah.
We're both having middle-aged moments here. Anyway, it'll come in about 5 minutes, but we were literally transferring guns from America across the border, of which a lot had serial numbers, and they were using the excuse that they were going to be able to track them and see where the cartels sent these guns and whatnot. But that was under Eric Holder, and it was an absolute disaster. So,
and I have to be honest with you. I had really low expectations for Joe Biden's ability to do the job of president. I had no idea how bad it would actually get, and in what record short period of time. We're 7 months into his presidency, and he has disasters and crises of his own creating on almost every single front. The American people are less safe, less secure than at any point in my lifetime. And this is unbelievable to think at where we've gone from January of this year to now. It is terrifying to think at the damage that he's done just 7 months into his presidency.
Do you think people are having buyer's remorse at this point with Biden?
I don't know how you couldn't have buyer's remorse at this point. I mean, look, I understand that people voted for him because they didn't like Trump. Okay. Well, now you get to see what not Trump looks like, and it sucks. It really sucks.
And was it that they didn't like Trump, or they didn't like Trump's tweets? Because a lot of this was about how Trump communicated, the way in which he did.
Trump Trump back, like Trump, like yeah, like I mean, again, like I almost tweeted out this weekend a special thank you to suburban white women who couldn't bring themselves to vote for mean old Trump. Your contribution to civilization is duly noted from now on. Like this is what's been the folks who were getting their news from watching Bravo. Like they're the people you point the finger at somebody who's responsible for it. They are. I can't vote for Trump. He's too mean. Okay. So instead we have a complete and total incompetence in the White House. You know, we have a border that went from the most secure it's been in 40 years to absolute, complete, and total chaos. We have runaway inflation. We have skyrocketing gas prices. We have an administration that has capitulated all across the globe. And now we have utter and complete humiliation in the Middle East. I mean, congratulations. You don't have mean tweets anymore. Instead, you've got the collapse of the American empire.
Yeah, I think this is basically. I think it's safe to say at this time that Joe Biden is worse than Jimmy Carter, because you just look at a lot of the same things that afflicted the Carter administration: double-digit unemployment, double-digit interest rates, stagflation. You had like 20% prime interest rates back then. You know, gas lines, the national melees, and then you had the Middle East. Situation with Eagle Claw, where we had the Delta Force crashing aircrafts into each other, helicopters in the middle of the desert, because they weren't on the same radio frequency trying to rescue hostages. It was just an absolute disaster. So I was born into the middle of Carter, so I don't remember anything, but my parents certainly don't regard that time, as far as, being a positive moment in American history.
No, but it took Carter years to get to that point.
True.
Years. And Jimmy Carter was inexperienced when it came to Washington. You know, Joe Biden's been here for 50 years, and it's taken 7 months to completely and totally, demolish the United States. I mean, where's the bottom here? Like, how low is this going to go? We're talking 7 months into this. 7 months. I think, again, I give Carter at least a little bit of a pass. It took him a couple years to really screw things up. I think Biden thought that he was going to come into office, that COVID was going to be automatically like resolve itself as a result of the Trump vaccines, which he doesn't want to give any credit to Trump for, but somehow Afghanistan withdrawal is Trump's fault. Interesting. And the fact is when that didn't happen, there was no plan B for anything else. There was. I mean, he thought, I'll just ride the Trump economic wave back. When COVID ends, people are going to be happy. They're going to be going back out. They're going to be buying stuff. It's going to be, morning again in America. And instead, what they had is we had, another round of COVID, a government completely and totally incapable of dealing with it, and then all these crises that Biden has created. I wrote about this a couple weeks ago. These aren't crises that Biden inherited. He's created these crises. We didn't have an inflation problem under Donald Trump. We didn't have an immigration problem under Donald Trump. We didn't have the Taliban running wild under Donald Trump. These are products of Joe Biden's mismanagement. He created these crises, and like I said, 7 months. 7 months to create these. It's truly amazing. Everything he touches, he destroys.
The guy's always been a complete hack politician my entire life. You and I have the benefit of watching him in the 80s and especially in the 90s. And, he was always a gaffe machine, and people have said it over and over again. The guy's been wrong on every single foreign policy decision under the Obama administration. And I don't know, did white suburban women think that all of a sudden Joe Biden is going to be a viable candidate and actually be able to get us back to the economy of 2019? I never thought that.
No, but they did. Like, I mean, again, they felt like it was something like this weird choice between the great economy that we had enjoyed plus mean tweets, or the great economy we enjoyed plus no more mean tweets. When that wasn't the choice. Like, Trump built that great economy. He's the one who got that engine fired up. Electing Joe Biden, that's not going to bring back the Trump economy, you know. And by the way, I can't, you know, I mean, I see the statements from Trump, and I mean, I just can't imagine being him right now. To think about everything that he had to put up with all of the absolute insane witch hunts by the Democrats and their friends in the media, from the Russia hoax to the Ukraine hoax to the Charlottesville crap to the January 6th hoax. Like all of this effort spent on trying to undermine President Trump, and he still brought us the strongest economy in my lifetime, an economy that was absolutely humming, you know, and one that was able to take the unbelievable gut punch of the COVID shutdowns and continue. I can't imagine being him and sitting there and thinking, you know, this is what my legacy is it's taken this idiot 7 months, not just to unwind all of the positive things that I've done, but to lead us down this absolutely depressing path to international humiliation. There's no other way to put it except that we've been globally humiliated.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think it could get any worse than, I think it was last weekend we had Joe Biden begging OPEC to pump more oil after shutting down the Keystone Pipeline, shutting down federal leases, basically shutting down fracking, which under Trump allowed us to become energy independent and the #1 oil exporter in the entire world. And now we're back to, you know, this subservient, walking up to the Arabs and OPEC and saying, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" It's pathetic.
And what's pathetic is that this is actually intentional. Like, there are those within the left who want nothing more than to destroy the American empire. They want to see America brought to its knees. They think that we, as the United States of America, are the leading cause of all the woes that face this globe and this culture. And they think that the only way that any of that could be fixed is by bringing America to heel. And so they're happy about this. They're happy that Afghanistan is a total nightmare. They're happy that we're having to beg OPEC. They're happy that we're being humiliated left and right. This isn't, oh God, this is a terrible thing no one saw coming. This was the desired impact. They want to bring America to heel because they legitimately think that we are the root of all that is wrong in this country, in this globe. And it's disgusting.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of the Obama years, where it's just basically the managed decline of America. They actually have the attitude that America's in decline, and this is some kind of comeuppance in a lot of ways to, I guess, right past wrongs, because, you know, we're all atoning for, you know, all of those awful things that people we never even knew have done in the past.
But I have to tell you, I never felt this bad in the Obama administration. I disagreed with Obama vociferously, and I never felt the level of concern that I feel now. I disagree with Barack Obama. I don't think he was a good president, and I think we ended up with a more divided country as a result of him as president. But I also trusted that the buck stopped at Barack Obama. I at least knew, okay, well, who's responsible for this? Well, Obama is. He's in charge. He's the president of the United States, and there's absolutely no doubt. And this is all his vision. Do you know who to blame now? I don't. No idea. I don't think Biden's not in charge. Kamala Harris isn't in charge. I've never seen anybody who wants to be less in charge than Kamala Harris. You know, literally. VP, we always laugh that VP is the most thankless job in the world because you don't have any responsibility. She wants less than being vice president. If this could just be a ceremonial title, she'd be fine with it. You know, literally, she wants, who the F's in charge? Who do I look to and say, that's the person that is the problem? This is the person we need to have change direction on. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know either. Is it Ron Klain? Is it Obama? Is it Valerie Jarrett? I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea who's in charge. It seems like it's being run. The White House is being run out of that Perkins Coomey Law Center, or whatever it is. It's bizarre.
The scarier thing is that I probably don't think any single person's in charge. That essentially it is executive branch by committee. Mm-hmm. And that's terrifying. That's terrifying in our system. I mean, we have a system that has intentionally empowered our executive. The President of the United States has huge amounts of executive authority because the founders understood how important it was to have a strong executive who was able to make those decisions, especially in this day and age when you're having to respond to stuff on the fly immediately, like things are changing minute to minute. And it's absolutely horrifying to think that we now have president by committee, and that committee is a whole bunch of nameless, faceless individuals. I don't think Obama's pulling the strings. I don't think Valerie Jarrett's pulling. I think this is a cohort of liberal staffers who are calling the shots in the White House, who frankly have no idea what they're doing and who are treating it like they would student government, in college. Like this isn't real to them. They have no real world experience. No one elected them to be president by committee. People actually, I guess some of them picked Joe Biden. So I would expect that Joe Biden would actually be up to doing the job, but it's clear at this point that he's not. And if he's not up to doing the job, he should admit to the American people that he's not up to it.
Well, and how many decisions is Jill Biden making? That's also what I keep kind of asking myself, because she seems to be the gatekeeper to him.
I don't know if you saw the reporting by Jack Posobiec over the weekend that Ron Klain wanted Biden to come back to D.C. and that Jill Biden vetoed it.
Right. Yeah, that's part of what I was asking, because I did see that.
That's think about that. Think about that. I mean, first off, nobody should be telling the president of the United States what to do. Nobody would have to tell Trump. Trump's ass would have been in D.C. instantaneously. First off, this would have never happened with Trump not being in D.C. He'd have been in D.C. He would have won minute by minute what the hell is going on. He's certainly not going to have his chief of staff tell him to do one thing and his wife telling him to go do something else. Like Jesus, this is what we've come down to, they're fighting over who gets to be in charge of Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, it's like you, I find it more depressing and worse than Obama, just from the standpoint that we have a president that is checked out. I just don't think there's really anybody home there.
There's not. And again, like I said, I don't like Obama. I voted against him twice. I strongly oppose his policies. I knew Obama was the one making decisions. He was in charge. So, I mean, I at least had the confidence that there was a person there. I can't believe I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I don't know who's in charge of the United States of America. I don't know who our president is. I think it's a president by committee. No wonder these decisions, commander-in-chief isn't intended to be a position that's done by committee. It requires somebody, a single person, a single executive to serve as commander-in-chief who's able to make those tough decisions. Because you're going to have times you're going to have one side that says this, another side that says that, and you're going to have to be the person who takes that information, synthesizes it, and says, this is what we're doing. And right now, we don't have that person. We shouldn't be surprised that we have a complete total foreign policy meltdown on our hands when we don't have a commander-in-chief. We have commanders-in-chiefs.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. Absolutely. So I want to switch up a little bit to your op-ed last week, which is you talked about the Democrats and their upcoming big lie. Give me a brief rundown on what exactly you mean by that.
So a lot of people think that the push on voting rights by Democrats has been all about making sure that they have a permanent majority going forward. And that's true. But they also have the backup. If this fails, and it is failing, in 2022, they're going to tell people that they didn't lose. Republicans stole the election. It's going to be the big lie. It's going to be Stacey Abrams on steroids all across the country. Nancy Pelosi is going to claim that she's not Speaker of the House anymore because Republicans disenfranchised voters. They won't claim that they lost. Republicans are going to steal the election in 2022. And no one in the corporate media is going to hold them responsible. Stacey Abrams continues to lie and say, well, she won't concede. She won't say she lost. And Democrats are preparing to play a page out of that playbook in 2022, which is why I said in my piece, we should be forcing every single Democrat running for office up and down the ballot. I don't care what you're running for. The same thing they did to Trump. Will you accept the outcomes of this election as legitimate? Are you going to concede if it is clear you have lost? If you end up with fewer votes, will you concede? We should hammer them non-stop on it. Will Nancy Pelosi concede the majority and admit that she has no right to be speaker anymore and that Democrats lost if Republicans end up with 219 seats? Will she say affirmatively, I will not lie and claim the election was stolen? Unfortunately, our side are wusses and will never hold people accountable like this, never go on the offensive, but that's what we ought to be doing.
I totally agree. This is my biggest issue with guys like Kevin McCarthy, McConnell, and Ronna McDaniel. They're always on defense. They're never on offense. And I think that's a brilliant strategy, and they should listen to you and implement it because, there's really nothing more powerful than running someone's own game back on them. And that's essentially what you're describing.
Absolutely. And by the way, this is not brain surgery. This is not difficult. We can all see it coming. We're already hearing over and over again about voter suppression.
They've been building the narrative since COVID started. Because it accelerated that.
Yeah, they were prepared to say that if Biden lost, it was voter suppression. There were already Facebook groups up on Facebook preparing to protest Trump stealing the election. Like, they were prepared to roll out the big lie in 2020. And they are amping it up for 2022. They can see the writing on the wall. There was an NBC News story this morning saying that essentially Democrats are get ready. Like the demolition that Obama faced in his first midterms and the demolition that the Republicans faced in their first midterms is coming for Biden and the Democrats. And it's very likely Democrats are going to lose control of the House and the Senate. And they're going to prepare for that by telling people this will be stolen. And again, we've been told that even questioning the outcome of the election in 2020, even questioning that and the process was a threat to democracy. Trust me when I tell you that when Democrats claim that this election was stolen, that nobody in corporate media will accuse them of subverting democracy. Quite the opposite. They'll champion them as the protectors of democracy, trying to stop Republicans from stealing an election, even though there'll be zero evidence at all, none, that Republicans stole an election.
Yeah, this is just insane, dude. It's just absolutely insane, but I can just see it happening. I just see, and really the way Stacey Abrams has played this in a lot of ways has been brilliant because that narrative is very much alive and well. Even all this time after she did legitimately lose, she's never wavered from that messaging. So
no. And by the way, again, she's never paid the price for it.
Right?
Why? Like, she should be a pariah. She won't admit she lost an election almost 4 years ago.
Right.
She's still, like why? Like, she should be, instead of being a pariah, she's a national star. She's a superstar. It's why the Texas Democrats pulled the stunt that they did.
Yeah. So that
after 2022, they too can be Stacey Abrams. Like everybody sees the here. You don't have to win. You can lose and then claim Republicans stole the election, and you can be a mega star in the Democratic Party.
Well, speaking of the Texas Democrats, Political Insider reported on this last week. The Texas Democrats who ran away in private planes to Washington, D.C. to avoid voting on election integrity bills. Did you see how they're now suing Abbott for causing anxiety and embarrassment?
Oh my God! I swear to
Didn't some of them
God.
like end up down in like Puerto Rico or something? Like they turned it into sort of like they went from DC to like some nice beach, some warm nice beach with probably a boat drink in their hand.
After being the COVID super spreaders, then they decided that actually it's Abbott's fault. And I mean, again, like it's this narrative that the Democrats do such a great job with that we frankly suck at. Here you have Democrats refusing to do their job. Democracy is spoken in Texas, and they've got an elected legislature that represents the people of Texas. And a majority of those people who represent a majority of the people in Texas believe that the following legislation ought to pass. And Democrats are actively subverting that process. We have people in prison from January 6th who are arrested for disrupting a congressional act, a federal act. Well, I mean, those people are insurrectionists. Well, what are the Democrats from Texas? Aren't they insurrectionists? I mean, they're trying to subvert the democratic process in Texas because they don't like the outcome, because they couldn't win an election, and these people are being celebrated as heroes when the fact is they're not heroes. They're people trying to subvert the democratic process because they don't like the outcome. None of these people are champions of the democratic process. None of them. They're only champions of the processes that work for them. The moment that these processes no longer work for them, they become enemies of those processes. These are the same people who, like, they're the defenders of the Constitution who want to throw out all the constitutional norms. They're the ones talking about, why do we even have senators? We shouldn't have senators anymore. It empowers red states. Let's pack the court, have 9, 11 justices because we don't like the composition of justices now. Let's create new states. Let's make Puerto Rico and DC state because we don't like the composition of the states. None of these people are actually interested in protecting these institutions. They're only interested in pure partisan power, naked partisan power grabs. They don't even pretend. Like our side, Jesus, can you imagine if we were running around talking about court packing and doing away with senators? Like literally people would be lighting themselves on fire. This would be the kind of radical thing that like they'd go nuts. And they're doing it and nobody cares.
Like you said, it's celebrated.
Yeah, like these people are treated as legitimate like political thinkers, legitimate parts of the process, and they're advocating for things as insane as doing away with the United States Senate. But well, I mean, like the Trump people are the insurrectionists, we're the seditionists, and you're talking about doing away with the United States Senate. You're talking about packing the court. Like it's hard to take any of this stuff seriously, which, by the way, is another reason why, like, everything we've seen about the January 6th mission has been such a sham. Like, it's why Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are particularly gross human beings who should have to, like, grovel for entrance into the Capitol. Kevin McCarthy should boot their asses out of the committee immediately, and they should go beg Nancy Pelosi for committee assignments, because none of it has anything to do with what they pretend this is about. None of this has been about protecting democracy, because the people that they're working with are advocating for literally tearing down the very institutions of our government. Court packing, doing away with the Senate, adding new states, all because they don't like the outcomes.
Yeah, it's pretty outrageous. Let's switch gears once more, because I got to get your thoughts on our favorite pal of the Love Gov, Andrew Cuomo. Because a lot of our readers are fascinated by kind of this Cuomo saga, not only the Love Gov, but also his brother Fredo on CNN. It's been quite a trying time for both these guys, with their career and being outed as coordinating and whatnot. But I have two questions. So with Cuomo and the resignation, and now we've got the impeachment being dropped, what the hell? And then also, I want to get your prediction on what do you think is going to happen to Andrew Cuomo down the road? Because I have my thoughts, but I wanted to get yours first.
All right, well, one, of course, the Democrats dropped any investigation further. They want to pretend like Andrew Cuomo never happened.
Wasn't that the deal, do you think? It's kind of like, I'll step down and step aside while you guys threaten
I
impeachment,
don't
and I'll
even
get
know.
out of the way if you drop it. And
I don't even know if they had to go like an express quid pro quo. I think it was abundantly clear that if Cuomo stepped down, the Democrats would move on as fast as humanly possible. Like they want to never say his name ever, 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 ever again. And I mean, so maybe there was behind the scenes conversations where there was like some express quid pro quos. You step down, we'll drop this. I don't even think we have to get to that point, because I think Cuomo knew if I step down, they want this to be over. Like the longer I stay in office, the longer they have to deal with this. They just wanted it to be done. So yeah, should they drop it? No, they shouldn't. Will they drop it? Yeah, absolutely. They're going to move on. What's Cuomo's future? I think this guy's just delusional enough to think that he can have a comeback. And that's his entire. We were actually in the car driving to Pennsylvania, and we were listening to Fox News Radio. We happened to be listening when Cuomo's attorney was speaking before, and thinking, wow, like Cuomo's going to come out and he's going to be guns blazing. I'm not quitting. This is it. Like they came out and we're like, oh my God, is he going to resign? Like, and he did. And then he proceeded to launch into what sounded like him trying to rewrite his political obituary, with the opening at the end for him to come out on the other side of this. Like he apologized. Of course, then he told us that he didn't do anything he had to apologize for, but he apologized anyways. He took credit for everything that ever happened, even though New York's a complete garbage state with like terrible policies and but he's great, amazing. I think he thinks there's a political like future for him, because he's a narcissistic lunatic sociopath who of course thinks he can come back from that. I don't think he can come back from this. I don't think New York Dems, let me tell you what, like when you kill the king, you better kill the king, but once he's dead, he's gone. Like they're not letting Andrew Cuomo slink back into political relevance in New York. He no way. I don't see it. What he thinks he can.
I kept thinking that this the sexual harassment stuff was obviously a distraction away from all of the elderly people that he slaughtered during COVID. 15,000, I think is kind of the number that we're looking at this point. Our buddy Matt Palumbo, is written about this with his book Dumb and Dumber. But I figured that's kind of a smokescreen, and then it's kind of like, he slinks out of office. They don't talk about it. They drop the impeachment, so you never talk about the sexual harassment. And then obviously they don't want to talk about the 15,000 old people. But I think Cuomo is counting on the short attention spans of Americans, especially Democrat voters. I think this guy sees an opening for himself in 2024 to run for president. The guy has absolutely no shame, and we're dealing with a party that has absolutely no shame and therefore no honor. So I just look at this as, he probably looks and justifies what he did with those women as being less than what Bill Clinton got hit up for all those years as governor and as president. So he probably figures that, me being a huggy and a kissy guy, people will get over this and they'll forget about the 15,000 dead, and I'll have a shot at, in 2024. I mean, honestly, man, these people are just so shameless, and they think so little of all of us. But at the same time, I just look at the Democrat Party and look at Democrat voters, and I just think, what aren't they willing to stoop to to win?
Everybody's already piled on him. Nobody left him. Like, look, he'd stay governor if anybody threw him a life raft. Anyone, anybody, anywhere along the line,
and that hasn't happened.
Nobody's like, you know what I mean? Like, I think he thinks he's going to run again. I think he's a narcissistic sociopath. Yeah, of course he thinks he's going to run again. I think you're right. I think he thinks people are going to forget about this. They got short-term memory. No, I didn't do anything worse than Clinton did. Clinton did worse stuff than me. Like, you know what I mean? He's actually accused of raping somebody, and he still got to be president. Who cares? Like, so yeah, I can see him thinking that. I just, the ink is like, people didn't get like, oh, we're sorry to see Cuomo go. Like, they they stabbed him on the way out. Every single one who could kicked him down. Like, and part of it is because of Andrew Cuomo's style. You know, Andrew Cuomo had run the Democratic Party in New York with an iron fist, you know, and that had been his style. And the problem with ruling like that is that when your time comes and the collapse occurs, all these people you stepped on the way up, all these people that you crushed, they're all there with the knives out looking for revenge. And I think that's exactly what happened to Cuomo. That's why nobody would give him that life. No, you'd think this guy spent his last name is Cuomo. So his father was the governor of the state. Like, right. He's a three-term governor. He's a guy who was the former, HUD director. Like, shouldn't this guy just have friends everywhere? Like, shouldn't his network be able to protect him? The truth is that, like, he was such a douche and everybody hated him that the moment that his grip on power slipped, they all came for him, which is why I think he wants to rehabilitate himself. I think he fancies himself as a comeback kid, and he will. I just don't see. I don't think that, and it's not the Democratic voters won't forget. I don't think that his frenemies in New York and across the country in office will let them forget.
Yeah. So you think the Cuomo dynasty is over?
Well, unless Fredo wants to run, I think they'd look. I mean, like that. I actually thought about that day. I was like, man, like, are we going to be stuck with like Chris Cuomo running for something? That I could see. To me, that's like, and I could see Andrew Cuomo thinking like, all right, well, this is my chance to be the behind the scenes guy, which is like, I mean, he's the operator anyway. Like, I think he'd probably be better at that, like, yeah, Chris Cuomo can just be the weird face of it, dancing oddly in the corner at the, Hamptons nightclub. Like, I mean, I think it's more likely we end up with a Chris Cuomo running for something, God forbid, than we do a Andrew Cuomo comeback.
Just so we don't have to see the nightclub dancing. I just can't go there. I was having flashbacks to Eddie Murphy and Raw describing how white people dance and making fun of them. It's so bad.
It was like if you were doing like an SNL skit of like how you thought Chris Cuomo would dance, that's how it would look. It was like, it was Perry.
Speaking of SNL, it reminded me kind of Night at the Roxbury, the two guys that were always sitting there just grooving.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in fact, I saw somebody remix that with Night at the Roxbury, and I was like, "This is so perfect."
It's why our side is just so superior at the memes, and the left are they're just so bad.
They're terrible.
They're terrible. All right, last topic. It looks like we're now in the quote unquote more dangerous than Trump phase of 2024 election cycle already. I saw a headline saying that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is more dangerous than Trump. What do you think about all this?
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And by the way, the moment that Trump announces that he's running again, we're going to get all the puff pieces about how the GOP could have had Ron DeSantis, but instead the specter of Donald Trump returns. Like the worse than Trump pieces only exist as long as Trump's not running. The moment Trump's running, then Ron DeSantis is going to be like, they could have had Ron DeSantis. They could have had this wonderful governor who was successful, and instead they've chosen Donald Trump again. Like, it's just so funny. Like they don't even worry about trying to keep their narrative straight. So we're in the worse than Trump phase right now. The moment Trump announces that he's running again, we'll be back to, DeSantis was such a good guy and all these other good options out there, and they're stuck with Trump.
I can still see, if Trump runs in 2024, him running with DeSantis, because I don't think he needs Pence. And I just don't think that we're really in, kind of in that political climate where, if you're someone from a southern state, you want to find a Yankee, you want to find somebody that secures up a certain part of the country. I don't think that applies at this point with Trump, and I think that's why a Trump DeSantis ticket could potentially work. But
that would be my dream ticket. That'd be my absolute dream ticket, is Trump DeSantis. One, Trump can only serve one more term. That's it. Like, if he wins, there's not going to be another Trump reelect. He gets one more term. So let's just go ahead and have the heir apparent be on the ticket. Let's let it be DeSantis. And like, Jesus, like this would be DeSantis's, like this is his internship. This is his opportunity to learn on the job what it's like to be president of the United States. It could be so powerful, and like he's such an ass kicker, and I love that. And he doesn't take any crap from anybody, and that's great. And look, I know people are like, oh, I'm not sure if I want Trump to run again. Look, here's the bottom line. If you're Donald Trump and you're sitting there and you're looking at what's happened to this country, and you know what happened to you in the election in 2020, and that without any question whatsoever, Democrats changed the rules. They changed the rules so that they could win in 2020. They absolutely did. There's no one questions whether or not they changed the rules. They did. They changed the rules. Mm-hmm. And if you're Donald Trump, I don't know how you sit there and say, I don't want to do this again. I feel like you have to do this again, and so let's have Trump DeSantis. Let's go out there and let's just like run it all out there, and let's put Trump's 4 years up against Joe Biden's, and let's let the American people decide: are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And at the end of the day, I'm pretty confident that even the suburban white women who couldn't bring themselves to vote for the mean tweets will understand that $5 a gallon gas and American humiliation on the global stage and inflation is not something that's so great. Maybe they can live with mean tweets again.
I think there's a lot of those suburban women whose husbands lost their job under Biden, and those jobs are not coming back. So I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse out there. And like you said, we're only 7 months in, and it's this bad. I can only imagine how bad that buyer's remorse is going to be once we're kind of on the heels of 2024 and the election kicking off, election season. So it's going to be interesting.
It'll be fun.
All right. Well, sadly, we're out of time. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. What are your social media coordinates so everyone watching can find you?
People can find me on Twitter at Chris R. Barron.
Cool. And then you got Kennedy Wednesday night?
Yep. Kennedy on Wednesday night.
Awesome. You got Gutfeld coming up anytime soon?
I'm doing it like once a month. So I should be, I just did it 2 weeks ago. So I should be hearing from them soon. So it should be time to do Gutfeld again.
Very cool. Well, everyone make sure and check out thepoliticalinsider.com and subscribe to our newsletter. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Please like and share this video far and wide. Subscribe to the Political Insider channel on Rumble and YouTube so you never miss out on any of our videos like this one. And until next time, everyone keep the faith and stay frosty. Thanks.